Hey everybody, I wanted to talk about these two books in kind of the 70s and 80s phenomenon of putting cartoons into paperback editions. I'm covering these two because they're the two that I think I've picked up at library book sales, but I've also kind of lumping in together like the Family Circus collections and other collections. I think Dennis the Menace has paperbacks like these that used to be put out. You just don't really see this anymore. At least I haven't. But I want to talk about these two Mad ones in particular. As growing up as a kid, I grew up in the very late 70s and then early 80s, all through the 80s. So Mad was, a book that I grew up with that I enjoyed looking at when I was at the grocery store. I just never had the money to buy it, but had some friends who had it too, and I was just kind of hit and miss with it because I was, a little younger and some of the stuff just went over my head or just was not interesting to me. And I just wanted to cover a couple of things because they kind of give you a whole slew of what Mad Magazine was about in this one book right here called Stamp Out Mad. And this actually is a reissue from 1990. I wonder if they ever did anything past 1990. But anyway, 84 is when this was originally put out. And on the back cover, it's got all these nude people running around. There's Don Martin's animation or art. And then it's funny because inside it says, "Attention schools, Warner books are temporarily available at quantity discounts." Like, what? Yeah, let's go put these in some schools. This will be great. Anyway, so this first one is a parody of Rocky. And if you remember these in the magazine, very, joke-driven sort of caricature art. And I just absolutely just flipped right by these as a kid. I didn't want to read that. And, the jokes probably sometimes were a little over me or, had social commentary that I just was not, tuned in or aware of at the time. So I usually passed over this. Of course, the Don Martin stuff, kids thought that was great because it's basic, simple, looks silly, and the jokes are silly and very easy. Fly remover, he puts money in because he's got flies all over him, and whoop, it rips out his actual fly. Hardy. And then the lighter side, they did this quite often, and I was very hit and miss on this just because it was usually wordy, and if it was simple or it had a very interesting look to it, I would probably read it. But for the most part, I kind of just passed over it. Probably the biggest draw for Mad Magazine and me was the back cover where you folded it, and then Spy versus Spy. Those were the two, because Spy versus Spy, they never talked, so it was just purely, visual gags. And a lot of times they were kind of crappy, but. And then here, just kind of tells you the kind of, I guess, the stuff they were looking for. Some legendary wire hangers, and so it was jokes about different things like Snow White's wire hangers, or 7 of them, Hardy Harps, and stuff like that. This is the same sort of thing, almost like the other series where it's just like one-offs and whatever, the lighter side of, but it's a different artist. Of course, the Don Martin stuff is great. And then there was these, and these are usually were pretty funny too, just because there's little to no talking in them. And then more like here's I'm not sure what they're lampooning here. Oh, a mad look at modern high school. And so the same sort of thing. And this was always the style with Mad Magazine. They'd have the block, and then they would respond to each other like that. There's a lot of that in this book, actually. And then there's they would do these every once in a while, phony, like they would imitate the art of other comic strips, which is actually, pretty clever, but it was pretty wordy. So I usually would skip over them a lot as a kid. When I say kid, pretty young kid. Not in my teens by any means. And then they would have these. So it would be like, oh, Ralph Nader. Sure, I know who Ralph Nader is. Or give 2 flips for, Warren Beatty. Okay. So really it was aimed at a little bit older, probably even older than a little bit older. Like for instance here, I had to reread this to figure out what the joke was, but a graduating class picture. So it's a regular class picture, and then they put famous people. Unless you're in your 40s, you're not going to know who Busby Berkeley was or Cecil B. DeMille. If you were young, you didn't care. And I get the jokes when you read them. It's actually, kind of clever the way some of these run. But anyway, as a kid, not so much. But then again, who said this was not really for a kid? It was, you know, mainly for teenagers and probably older. But that's a pretty funny one there. And then this one is just all commentary basically on Three's Company and the use of Ritter as being a gay character just to get in ratings, and how far they could push it and how far they couldn't push the rate, you know, the censorship, I mean, the jokes before they'd get censored and whatnot. You know, that's kind of a lot of social commentary. And this other one here, I would probably enjoyed much more as a kid, which is all Don Martin stuff. And it's very light on material. Like, this is a thick book. And I was like, wow, they really did. And you look in the back, and there's a bunch of them. Apparently, he did them quite a bit. $1.95, $1.75. You probably couldn't get a book like this for under $8 nowadays. This thickness. But anyway, great Don Martin stuff. You know, very energetic and very slapstick funny. And like I said, the Family Circus, you know, they put out all they kind of collected all the Family Circuses and put them out in this format, and I've got a ton of those. I probably have almost all of them. And much to my surprise, they're actually still doing Family Circus online, and it's taken over by the Sun. And, you know, as of course with everything with online, it's just full of just trolls, just, you know, just being ugly about everything. No matter what side of the issue you're on, they just got to interject politics into everything. So it takes the fun out of that. But I really like these, you know, with the paperback, because a lot of times you don't want to sit on a computer and browse. So this is easy just to go through right here. And I won't say these make great restroom books, but they do. So there you go. I just wanted to point out these two interesting things. I probably got these at a library book sale for 50 cents a piece, or even less. Who knows? I love coming across stuff like this because it's, you know, it's not another Cliff Notes book or some sort of you know, modern murder mystery or whatever. It's just like these things that somebody had in their collection, and they say, I got to get rid of all this stuff. So they dump it in, and you're like, oh, you found these little treasures like this. It's great. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about it real quick.